Boston's defense was amazing last season. Can it still be without Kristaps Porzingis for a while? We'll talk about the latest camp question right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster Brand, it's holiday season, drop Drew in the mix. And 3 from KP, no we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Juice, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in locked on after. Karalis on the breakdown. Clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started, raising business, how we finish. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there. Welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I got you Monday through Friday. They're going to start playing soon, and when they play on the weekends, I got bonus podcasts for you. So make sure you are subscribed. Wherever you get your podcast, the audio version, you can watch the show on YouTube. Get into the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the show, I'm John Karalis. I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years now. Now I'm doing it for Boston Sports Journal as a beat writer. I've also written a couple of books, which you can buy on my website. The latest one is Built Different, celebrating the Celtics' run to their 18th championship. JohnKaralis.com. Get $30. Get it delivered to you. Sorry, that's not international. It's only U.S. If you want to order from someplace like Australia, it's going to cost a lot more. So I'm going to have to get back to you on if you really want to pay for the shipping on that. Trust me. But I am selling like other stuff, like a label that you can tape to the book. You can affix it to the book that you've already bought. Maybe there's a cheaper way to do it if you're internationally. It doesn't matter now. We're here to talk about the Celtics defense, and we're doing it on a show that's brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all you FanDuel customers can get $5. Get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Celtics defense was really, really good last year. We're doing camp questions now. Camp is less than a week away. Can the Celtics still defend at that highest of levels? And when I say highest of levels, I mean the top of the NBA. They were number 2 in the regular season, number 3 in the playoffs in defensive rating. Can they get up to that still? So let's talk about that. Tom Westerholm joins us on mute. But there you go.
Hey,
hey. I think the phrase, hey, you're muted, has the uptick on that over the past 5 years has gone through the roof.
Yeah, for sure. I hope somebody in 2018 or 19 bought stock in the phrase, hey, you're muted.
Hey, you're muted. If that could have been sold like an NFT, which, you know, remember NFTs when those were a thing?
Yeah, I do. That halcyon moment in time. Yeah. No, I mean, I think you think back to like those Zoom Celtics.
Oh my God! During
like
the pandemic,
the, press conferences, and like, hey, you're muted.
Yeah,
you're still on mute. I think we lost him.
Yeah. We now go to John Karalis of Boston Sports Journal.
Correct.
John. Okay, let's wait a second. Let's give him a second. Let's get back to him.
Sorry, I was muted. I got a question.
Yeah. I think you're having it's not. Let's get back to John later.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the Celtics defense. Celtics defense was really good. And now my question here, because look, we expect the Celtics to be very good. We got to preface all of this. The Celtics are going to be very good. They're probably going to win the championship. They have probably the best odds of winning a championship. Although, you know, the odds of winning a title are very low. So it's not like we're sitting here saying doom and gloom.
Right.
You know, but people are going to see the headline. People are going to see the description and be like, why don't you believe in the Celtics defense? It's not that I don't believe in it. All right. But the question stands. No. The question stands. Kristaps Porzingis is out for probably the 2024 portion of this season, right? Or at least most of it. His impact on the defense was pretty good. I have numbers to prove that. So the question, just broad question, Tom.
Yeah.
Can the Celtics still defend at that highest level and be a top 2 or 3 defense without Kristaps Porzingis?
So I think your short answer is like, yeah, probably, right? Like it is harder. But I mean, I think when you look up and down the Celtics roster, there's still just so much individual brilliance on the defensive end. Like I don't feel bad using that phrase or that word in relation to your Drew Holidays, your Derek Whites, your Jason Tatums. You know, you're like these are guys who Jaylen Brown, you know, mostly. These guys are can be really spectacular defenders, and I think that when you kind of when you build your defense around like four guys who can for sure guard their yard, right? Like you know that like these are guys who not only guard their yard, if there's a switch, they can then guard their new yard as well, right? Like these are guys who can really do a lot of things.
Yard defenders.
Yeah. They'll guard most of the block if they need to.
Yes.
But I do think there were some warning signs last year, I think with Al especially, where it's like, okay, I mean, like, and again, you know, another guy who there's going to be moments during the season defensively where Al Horford is the most important player on the floor, right? Like there's going to be matchups where Al Horford is going to be the most, and that in itself is kind of like, okay, if a you know very much his upper 30s guy is your most important defensive guy on the floor, that's somewhat concerning. So I do think there are some warning signs this year that are like, okay, something to for sure keep an eye on.
So the theory here, let's look at the numbers here. Porzingis, with Porzingis on the floor, all of this is per cleaning the glass. Porzingis on the floor, Celtics are defensively almost 3 points better per 100 possessions, tied with Derek White. And right there's like the kind of chicken and egg. Is Porzingis, is it White or is it Porzingis? Is White a better defender because Porzingis is there protecting the rim? Does Porzingis get better opportunities to protect the rim because you've got such a good defender in front of him that when players do get to the paint, they're like, oh, I'm going to force this or something. Like, so there's a symbiotic relationship between the guard and the big. But that's part of the relationship that, because it's missing, that's why the question I think needs to be asked. The starters, White, Holiday, Jayson, Jaylen, with Kristaps, defensive rating 109.8, which is lower than their regular season defensive rating. With Horford, it's 118.9. So that's a 9-point difference. Horford still a net positive because the offense was good, but that was a net of a little over like 1.3. And the net for Porzingis is plus 12 because he also makes the offense really good.
Yeah.
So the scenario that I'm painting here, the picture that I'm painting here is without Porzingis, you're relying on Al Horford. So the numbers already show that Horford with the starters, the Horford lineups are not quite as good defensively. On top of that, I'm going to lay this all out. We'll take a break and then you'll react. On top of that, Al Horford is a year older. He's going to be out there switching. The switches are going to be a little bit more problematic. And on top of that, it's early in the season. And Al, if nothing else, is very good at preserving his body, and he will not go, I don't want to put this the wrong way. He'll give it 100%. But when he gets beat, he's not going to go dipping into some kind of reserve to try and make a chase down block. He's going to do everything he can not to get beat. But when he does get beat, that's if the no one's over to help, that's going to be a layup.
Yeah.
And that's part of the calculus here. Now, because of that, what is the actual trickle down effect? What do we see on the floor? I have my thoughts, but when Al is the main defender out there as a starter, what's the trickle down effect on the Celtics defense? And what's that going to look like? And is that going to prevent them from being as elite as they have been? I'm not saying they won't be good, but as elite as they have been. Let's take a second, chew on that scenario. I have my thoughts on how it's going to look, but we'll get yours in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the place to go when you want to get those last-minute tickets, and they're going to help you out in a lot of different ways. First of all, they've got Gametime Picks. It's a new feature that makes getting the tickets for these live events super easy. And all live events here, sports obviously, but music, theater, comedy. Now with the Celtics coming back and Bruins going to be back, and there's going to be a lot more sporting events around for you to particularly go to a Patriots game if you're in Boston or wherever you are. There's something around. Use the Gametime Picks. It filters out the fluff, shows you the incredible deals on these great seats, so you don't have to waste your time. And then on top of that, you toggle on the all-in pricing. With that setting on, you see the full cost. So you're saving time by and surprised by not being like, oh my God, I thought I was paying this price. You get your seat view, so you know what you're going to be looking at. The lowest price guarantee credits you 110% of the difference if you find that same ticket somewhere else for less. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Make your second listen Locked On NBA. Rotating hosts all week long, so go check that out. Covering the league as a whole, wherever you get your podcasts, watch the show on YouTube, all of that stuff. Catch me on Wednesdays with Jake Madison. Catch me right now talking to Tom Westerholm. So, Tom, I laid out that scenario before the break with Al Horford as the starter and, regular season, early season Al Horford, who might be a half step slower. How do you think, what's the impact there?
Well, I think it kind of comes back to one of the episodes that we did earlier this summer where we talked a little bit about just making sure that you're healthy for the playoffs, right? Because I think you put it well, where it's like he'll do what he can. But when you get to the playoffs, you kind of have to do what you can and also a little bit of what you can't normally. And Horford's not going to do the things that he can't during the regular season. And that's good. That's what you should be doing, because again, just get to the playoffs healthy, right? And I think there's no scenario in which the Celtics don't get to the playoffs. So like, as long as you kind of have that in mind, it's like, well, okay, if you get beat here and there and you give up some buckets here and there, it might not look pretty. And honestly, people might start to be like, wow, can the Celtics actually get it together before the playoffs? And realistically, like defensively, only they are going to know that, right? They're going to be the ones who know. And we're going to be kind of watching, I think, sometimes like, this looks a little sketchier than it did last year. I do think there are going to be some early season defensive issues that, might not look quite as pretty. And it's going to be a matter of, okay, did they have enough in the tank? Do they have enough of that kind of grit that they know how to dig into to win, games, to win playoff games, to win playoff series, to try to do it again? Because, they're in kind of a tough spot. I mean, they're in a spot that it's like, okay, what can Xavier Tillman, bring? Like, what can press the Luke Cornett button and see what happens? Because you cannot overtax Al Horford early in the season just because you don't have Porzingis. So I think it is going to be a fairly significant challenge early on.
So I think one thing that we might see is more offensive fouls drawn or attempts at charges drawn. So follow my logic here.
Yeah.
If Al Horford is starting, I think you got to lean into it. Al Horford starting, he's going to get beat off the dribble. There's just no way you cannot sit there and tell me he's not going to get beat off the dribble.
Yeah.
At least sometimes. So you lean into it kind of the same way an offensive line, you lean into the aggressiveness of a defensive line when you're throwing a screen pass to set something up for somebody else. If Al's going to get beat, you do they call it veering or some other names for it. It's a late switch. And with those late switches, it might end up being a guard. And if that guard switches, you might see Derek White trying to slide in and take more charges. Last season, he took 7 charges. The previous season, he took 13. That was the year Marcus Smart was there and Blake Griffin was there. And the whole defense was kind of geared towards getting in front of somebody, drawing the charge when you can. That was their kind of specialty. The Celtics got away from that. They drew 47 charges that year with Blake and Marcus, 16 this past season. You might see that 16 go up. Maybe that'll, and I don't know, by the end of the season, things will change. And that's another part of this discussion. When Porzingis returns, maybe everything tries to go back to normal. But in the early going, at least, we might see White and Holiday and those guys sliding over late and trying to protect the rim by taking more charges, which is, I think, an effective strategy, but also, you open yourself up to some bumps and bruises and the occasional, like, oh, maybe Drew has to miss a game because he took a charge to the chest and he's feeling a little something there, and you got to give him an extra day. So those I think are the potential kind of stylistic shift and the ramifications.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other thing with a charge, right, is that like if it can be really effective. I mean, Marcus Smart was awesome at it, and also was the defensive player of the year one season. So like it can be effective. But the other thing about it is too, if you think about just the physics of it, the whole point is that both of your feet are in place and not moving, and then you get hit, right? Yeah. So like, when you think about that, it's like, okay, so big part of the defensive plan is to stop moving. That's kind of risky. Like that isn't, then that's not really, you saw the charges go down and the defense be excellent. I do think that it will come with costs. It will come with some cost to personnel, but I also think, I mean, you are going to give up, some baskets as a result of charge hunting. You're going to give up some free throws as a result of charge hunting if you don't get the call here and there, right?
That's right.
So again, I think you're looking at something, it's a Band-Aid, and it's something to try to, I think a lot of these solutions, right? We're not talking about things that you're hoping are going to carry the Celtics through the postseason. You're looking at things that are going to hopefully get them there without too much damage done, whether that's to their bodies or the defensive rating, right? Or the standings, whatever it is. That's what you're hoping to do. Just don't keep it away from, and again, I think what you're going to find is that the Celtics have enough good individual defense that it's not going to get egregious. It's not going to get out of control. It's not going to be as good as last year. And that's going to be a little jarring. I mean, I think Celtics fans have to prepare a little bit. Last year was such a spoiling kind of year. Like, They were so good for so much of the season. This year's team is not going to win as many games by 20 points. Like they're not going to just storm through everything the way last year's team was a literally historic team on a lot of levels. So like this year's team could totally win a championship still, but probably just don't expect the same net rating necessarily.
That's right. But now this all plays into, like, it's all connected to like how Jaylen and Jayson lead, like we talked about in yesterday's podcast. And like, you're going to have to figure out new ways to lead when these are the some of the issues. You're going to have to, Jayson and Jaylen are going to have to like step up and make a real statement, which they already have made a statement. Those are two, they are not somebody that you target defensively. Definitely. When you're the other team, right? You don't target Jayson, you don't target Jaylen, you figure something else out, but they're going to have to take it to a little bit of a different level to set that tone and say, look, we are going to defend a little bit more. Maybe that shows up as blocked shots or charges drawn or rebounding numbers going up or something. I also expect the Celtics to play off of shooters and more pack the paint than, so I think Joe Mazzulla has always talked about, you got to pick your poison a little bit. You got to give something up, especially in today's NBA, regardless of who the defenders are. You have to pick something that you're going to live with. And I think one thing the Celtics are going to have to live with is if the other team makes 60% of their jumpers, that's going to have to be how it goes, because I would expect everybody to take a half to one full step away from the jump shooters, just so they don't drive and you don't put your guys at risk. When they drive, you're going to have to say, hey, look, somebody's going to have to take a charge or something, right? You're going to have to figure out a way to, or maybe that's just going to lead to an increase in fouls, or maybe that just leads to more pressure on the offense, which I will save that as the third segment here. But I think you're going to see other teams get some cleaner looks at jump shots just because you don't want to let them get all the way to the rim. You want to run them off the line, but then maybe it's just a lot more drop coverage. Maybe it's a lot less switching. And you just be like, look, mid-range is to death. And if you beat us hitting 70% of your mid-range shots, so be it. We're not going to overreact to losing some of these games in November and December that way. But we on the outside are going to have to get used to, like you said, it's not going to look the same. They're probably going to lose some games that they would have won last season. They're going to have to pick and choose. They're going to have to make some defensive choices where are they going to be able? I think the answer to this question is no. I don't think they're going to have a top 2 or 3 defense to start the season. Maybe when we look at the splits at the end of the season going into the playoffs, like, wow, what a second half defensively the Celtics had. But the first half, they might be maybe they're the 8th best or 10th best defensive team because Porzingis makes that much of an impact. Horford's going to have a half step. Holiday is getting older, and he's coming off a very busy summer. You're probably going to have to limit his minutes a little bit. You're going to have to limit some of the other guys' minutes, and you don't have Horford as your backup. Your backups are now Luke Cornett, who's proven to be decent. Like you said, Tillman, those guys. You're bringing in lesser defenders as your backup. So we're going to have to get used to that defensive number dropping a little bit.
And none of that accounts for the championship hangover either. That's the other thing.
That's right. That's not like, but it's going to be billed as that. There's no doubt about
it. That is true. That is true.
Gonna prepare yourselves to hear, championship hangover defensively. The Celtics were 2nd defensively, and now they're 9th. Is that the championship hangover? I'm telling you right now, it's September. This is the September 19th show. Prepare yourself for a defensive slide, not the kind of defensive slides what the coach made you do. The defensive dip where this is just going to be a function of Porzingis not being here, but it's going to be called that. Hangover. Blah, blah, blah. In very Joe Mazzulla fashion, as we are locked on Joe Mazzulla here, the answer here might be on the offensive end.
I love it.
We'll talk about how to defend with your offense coming up in a second. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. They love doing all these cool things for you, like giving you 3 weeks free of NFL Sunday Ticket. You've got a few days left. You got through September 22nd. After September 22nd, this deal is gone. So take advantage of it now. Go to FanDuel. Bet $5 on anything, right? Pick something. I've been using the Patriots at 6.5-point underdogs against the Jets. Pick the Patriots if you think that they can step up there. Once you bet that $5, you'll get 3 weeks free of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. With a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. Then all you need is a Google account, current form of payment. You can cancel at any time. So visit FanDuel.com. Make sure you're using the tools that they have to gamble responsibly. Set your limits, set your budget, have some fun. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Remember, Built Different is my latest book. Go to johnkaralis.com to buy it. It's $30 domestic shipping, U.S. shipping. I'm sorry, international people. I can email you. You can email me. We can figure out international shipping. We can go, but it's going to be expensive. But domestically, $30 to buy this or my other book, signed, personalized inscription. If you already have the book, I have these labels that I started out at $10. I'm selling for $10. It's a label. It's a 4x6 label that I will also be personalized message sign. And you can just stick it to the inside of your book so you have a signed copy of my book. So check it out at johnkaralis.com. All right, let's get to Tom here. And it's all about the offense with the Celtics. They're going to have to be super focused on the offensive end. As Joe says, fight for your spacing so you have the right lanes, the driving lanes, so you're not turning the ball over and making it worse by giving up transition points. Make sure you're fighting for your spacing so you get those kickouts. The Celtics can make up for whatever defensive issues exist here by simply hitting shots, taking good shots, getting back and setting their defense. And like I said before, you set your defense, you give up jumpers. Okay, you can live with that. Maybe you lose a couple more games than you did last year, but you're still okay because they were so good last year. They had a bit of a pad. Maybe this year that pad goes away a little bit because of these issues. But if you go out there and run your offense, run good offense, take good shots, and hopefully those shots fall at a good clip. If the Celtics can come out hot offense, not even hot, just good offensively, then they can get back and either score enough points to make up for the difference and still be a net positive, or help their defense just by being able to set it and not be in rotation as much, and that will help them.
Yeah, I think for the offense, you're just looking like, okay, if the defense isn't as good as last year, that's fine. If it's not even like that close, like as long as it's not egregiously bad, if it's not even that close to as good as last year, that's okay. As long as the offense is close to last year, all right, like you'll be okay. You'll win plenty of games during the regular season if your offense is as good. And to your point, yeah, like the defense would also benefit from that. I mean, I think, again, I think that goes back to if you can get to a place where your guys, your top, your four best players are relatively healthy and are all able to guard their yard, you're going to be in a good situation. I mean, I think, and even, some of your guys like curious to see what happens with some of the guys off the bench. It was funny early in the show, you were talking about how Porzingis and Derek White were tied with on off. Well, there's a third guy who was tied with them as well, Sam Hauser, also
That's right. That's right.
Right in that same same on-off defensive numbers. So it's it's there's a lot of talent defensively on this team individually, and that the reason they were so good is because they all played together so well last season. And I think that's what you're kind of hoping to see here is that carries over, and that the offense, and I think a lot of the reason, again, that they were good last year is because the offense was so good. So if you maintain some, I think that could be, I don't think that's going to be what keeps them at like the second best defense in the NBA, but that could be what prevents them early in the season. That could be what keeps them at 8 or 9, instead of like 13 or 14, right? Like instead of dropping down a little bit farther, being able to get back, being able to set your defense. And, look, maybe we're wrong. Maybe Derek White is, can just be like chase down LeBron, on every play, and it'll be fine. But it would certainly make life a little bit easier for everybody involved if they were able to play well offensively.
It would. Their offensive rating last year, regular season, was 122.2, was best in the league. Historically good. They're just and that's with like maybe a couple of guys that could shoot even better this year. And now without Porzingis, that could also take a little bit of a dip, but I feel better about them maintaining their offense than I do them maintaining the defense. The defensive rating last year, 110.6. So their net rating, 11.7. So let's just use that number as like the pad. You got 11.7 points per 100 possessions per game to kind of play with there. So if your defense at 110 was second best, well, if they dip to, let's just say, last year's middle of the pack, Memphis, Phoenix, Sacramento, 113.7, 114.4. That's still a net rating of about 7.8 if you're middle of the pack. So you don't even have to be the best defensive team. You just have to be okay. You just be average defensively. If their offense can keep up where it's been, they can make up that difference and still be a pretty healthy net positive. Like Oklahoma City was second in net rating last year at 7.3. So, and everybody loves OKC, right? Everybody thinks OKC is going to make it to the finals. You can still be an elite team with a net rating there, and their offensive rating 118.3, their defensive rating 111. The Celtics have room, but the question here is not about whether they have the room. They do. The question here is preparing yourself for something that looks different, which will be giving up more points, winning games a little bit more close, and not looking as dominant defensively. That's what this whole exercise is doing. Prepare yourselves for that.
Yeah, that's all true. Also, if you want to get even more encouraged by the potential for the offense, the clean the glass stats, which filter out the garbage time, which teams did generally make up a little bit of ground on the Celtics in garbage time. If you filter that out, the Celtics actually and you took like the number 14 team on defensive rating. You took their defensive rating and put it to the Celtics. They had a net rating of 8.2, which means they actually would have had the second best net rating, even if they had the 14th best defense during non-garbage time last year. So again, to your point, right? There's plenty of room here. There should still be a really excellent basketball team, whether or not they are the best defense in the league. But
I'll just throw one last stat out there.
Yeah,
just
for fun.
Just because I don't want people to think that I'm like being negative here. If the Celtics offense is as good as it was last year at 120, let's give it a couple of points less. Let's just round it down to 120.
120.
Okay? 120. The worst defense in the league, the Utah Jazz, were at 119.6. So the Celtics could still have a positive net rating with the offense that they had last year, even if they dropped to the absolute worst defensive rating from last season, they could still be a net positive. So that's how much their offense can help them overcome whatever defensive slippage happens.
Not only that, you take those same parameters you just laid out there. Per cleaning the glass, they would have had the 9th best point differential if they had the worst defensive. The cleaning the glass number. Cleaning the glass really likes the Celtics.
Yeah.
Which is encouraging because again, that just gets rid of garbage time. So
that's right. That's right. All the garbage time stuff. So
now that also includes Porzingis, obviously. So that's right.
That's right. But the point is that the Celtics offense is so good and can be so good.
Yeah.
That whatever slippage there exists here, they can overcome it. But it will mean a couple more losses for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It'll mean some potentially frustrating coverage for sure.
Yep.
But as I think will be the lesson with all of these camp questions, this season will look different and some of it might not look as good, but the Celtics are still really, really damn good. And the net impact out of all of this is they'll probably still be really good.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to have the best chance at getting back to the finals, provided there's no disaster.
For sure.
So
for sure.
That's the lesson. But okay. Tom, appreciate you. Thank you for hopping on.
Appreciate you.
And I appreciate the listener, the viewer. Thank you so much for sticking with us throughout all of this. I think these exercises are important because it shows you, even with questions, the Celtics team is still really good. The potential for them to still be really good, even with some slippage, that exists. And I think it's important to go through this, not to be like, hey, let's be negative for a while. No, we've got to explore all of this stuff to see where they might land. And we still think they're going to land in a good place. Thank you for listening. If you're a new listener, you're still here, you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell on YouTube. Get notified when I drop a video. And then I would love it if you shared the podcast and told everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.